Okay, this morning I'm heading to Coeur d'Alene. Some guy, his truck doesn't start. It sounds like he's got to be out of wherever he's at by Monday. It's Saturday. He's got a 1-ton Chevy, one of those box trucks. That's all I know. He can't get it started and he needs it to get out of wherever he is. So I'm gonna head down there and see if I can get his truck running. Okay, we're here. This looks like there's either a lot of people living here or this is a place where people store their vehicles, because there are a lot of vehicles here. Man, it's windy and it's cold. Oh, hey, how you doing? I'm John. Man, it is cold. Woo!
It's cold out there.
Hey, is this like a place where people store their cars?
No. I've got 3 of them here.
Are you a Vietnam vet?
Yeah.
You are?
Right.
Oh, wow. I did work for a guy that was in Vietnam.
Yeah. Come on in.
Okay, so be careful. The
It takes me a long time to get in.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's fine.
So I'm assuming I'm looking at the truck.
Yeah, that's it.
You're gonna drive that truck? Can you drive it?
Sure, I might. I drive fine.
Okay.
I just don't want.
Hang on a minute. This thing is. So once you get in the truck, you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can stay in the house. I just need the keys. You said you had to get keys or something? And then if I need your help, here's what I might need. I'm going to check for a spark. So I have to turn the key.
Right.
And I might not be able to see.
Right.
I might have to come and I'll help you down there.
I'll put my shoes on.
Do you not have a ramp or something?
No, I don't.
No kidding.
No, I'm leaving here.
Okay, so I just want to explain. There's 3 things that you need for a combustion engine to run. You need fuel, you need oxygen, and you need a spark.
Right.
So before we do anything, we're going to see if it turns over. You don't have an, oh, there it goes. Okay, so it turns over, and let me find the hood release. All right, let me put my glasses on so I can see what we got. Looks like a new battery. Okay, so what we're looking for is, I'm looking for the nearest. Oh, you know what? You got to work on this truck from, I believe we got to do it from inside. Okay, well, this is a 1-ton, and you can't work on it from under the hood. You got to work on it from in here. So I'm moving this stuff out of the way so I have room to work. Oh, that's heavy. And then I got to get that centerpiece off. Okay, there's the engine. For now, let's just leave that. You want to set that out there? Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one of these plug wires. This isn't normally how you do this, but I'm dealing with a truck that's difficult to work on because you can see it's under the dash. So I've got that stuck in here. This is the distributor. This is where the voltage comes out of and goes into your to cause your spark. So what I've done is I've put that in there, and I'm touching this end on metal, grounded, and the spark shows up right in this window. Okay, so what that means is that it's getting a spark. So we eliminated that as being the possible problem. Now we're going to fuel. So the step 2, I have something called starting fluid, and I need to get to the intake, which is going to be another job. But and then what you do is you spray starting fluid in the intake. You crank the engine. If it starts, it's firing on your starting fluid, and if it dies, it means the fuel in the tank is not getting to the combustion chamber. So that's number 2. I'm gonna find the intake and put some starting fluid in there. Okay. This is one of those jobs you can't really do very much recording because everything is confined. You can't see anything. So here's where we're at. I found out a few things since I got here. Okay, what I found out was he bought a filter. He was convinced that it was a fuel filter, so he had a filter here. The problem is not electrical, it's gas related, and so he had the filter. So I went ahead and replaced it, but then I just found out the gas in this truck, some of it's 6 years old, some of it's 8 months old. The newest is 8 months old. This problem is bad. Well, this job took a turn. So I'm coming back tomorrow. I'll tell you what in detail, but bottom line is I believe that somebody put antifreeze in his gas tank and to sabotage the truck, and I'll tell you all about it. But I will be coming back tomorrow. You know what, let me put all my stuff away and I will give you a quick recap of what actually happened here today. Okay, I gotta tell you a story. I came here to get this guy's truck started and thinking, okay, it's either, you know, there's not that many things that can go wrong. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, but usually it's something basic. You know, your starter doesn't work, your battery's dead, you know, you have a problem in your electrical, you've got a problem in the fuel delivery system. Anyway, so I ran a test. He had a spark. The truck turns over fine, starter's good. He had a spark, so I isolated to fuel, and I told him I was going to spray it's called starter fluid into his intake, which to see if the engine starts, it's firing on the starter fluid. Once it burns that up, now it's relying on the fuel pump. If it dies, you're not getting your fuel. Well, then he tells me, I think it's the fuel filter. I said, why do you think that? He said, because the truck sat for a while. I started it up. It started right up, and then I went a little bit and it died. And I think it was because there was bad gas in there. He said, and I bought the fuel filter. I said, oh, you have the fuel filter? Well, let's just replace it. So I got under the truck, I replaced the fuel filter. Well, I had him, he turned the key to the on position, which causes the fuel pump to pressurize and put fuel in the line, and it was green. I've never seen green gas. So then he cranked the engine, and you could see it pulsing, you know. In other words, the fuel pump was not clogged, but I was under there and I had a fuel pump, brand new fuel pump, so I replaced it. But his gas was green. So I said to him, you know, I don't think that's fuel in your gas tank. I said, it's green. And I said, even bad fuel, I don't know of fuel turning green. And then he tells me a story about how everybody there that's renting in that complex, except him, are parolees. The guy who owns the building rents to parolees. And one of them didn't pay, couldn't pay something, and this guy let him sleep in the back of that box truck. And one of the other parolee tenants ratted him out, and that's why he's leaving. They kicked him out for letting that guy sleep in his back of his truck. So he thinks that somebody sabotaged the truck, and we're thinking they poured antifreeze in his gas tank. That's where we're at with this thing. I checked his radiator, and it's, I don't know that it's dry, but when you look down his radiator, you don't see any fluid. And when you look at the overflow reservoir, which is usually supposed to be about half full, it's dry. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but at this point, the theory is his gas tank is full of antifreeze. So I'm coming back tomorrow, and here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drill a hole in his gas tank and drain that gas tank. Okay, so I'm coming back tomorrow morning. I'm gonna drill a hole in his gas tank, and I am going to drain that tank. And I'm going to take this product. It's called JB Weld. It has never failed me yet. And I'm going to seal the hole with JB Weld. It takes 24 hours to fully harden like steel. But we're going to have his gas tank drained. I'm going to get under the hood and remove his air cleaner, his air filter, find his intake, spray my starter fluid into his intake. I expect that engine to fire up, run for a little bit, and then die when it burns up the starter fluid. That's going to tell me that his problem was there was no gas going. I mean, he said he had old gas in there. I don't know what's in that tank at this point. I honestly, who knows? But once it's drained, completely drained, and then we're gonna fill it up. I'm gonna bring gas. We're gonna fill it up with fresh gas. Oh, wait, I got confused. Okay, so I'm gonna drill the hole, drain it. I'm gonna seal it with the JB Weld. I'm gonna test the engine with the starter fluid, and then I'm coming back the next day, because it's got to sit for 24 hours. I'm coming back the next day with gasoline. Gonna fill the tank with gas, and we're gonna hopefully fire it up. This is if you ever want to drain a fuel tank and you can't siphon, because vehicles today, you can't siphon gas anymore. It's an anti-theft thing. I pulled the fuse cover off, found the fuel pump relay, okay, which is, you're looking at it like this, so it's up there in that corner. This is the fuel pump relay, and if you look at the side of this relay, there's one circuit that's always closed, and there's one that's a switch, and it's pin 30. Pin 87 is the one that's normally open. So when you turn your key, that closes, and this tells your fuel pump to pump. So I found, oh, and the pins are marked on the bottom. Okay, so there's 87 and there's 30. I had to jumper those two. Okay, so you probably can't see this, but I have a jumper there that's touching those two pins together, 87 and 30. And my fuel pump now is draining the fuel into the buckets. Not sure where I'm going to put the fuel. Haven't figured that out yet. I think I'm going to call one of these places, you know, they do oil changes, because they have that kind of disposable. I'm going to see if I can bring it to them for a fee. But anyway, so I'm draining this tank because I don't know how old this gas is. Meantime, I took the air cleaner. This is the remember I said you need a spark, you need oxygen, and you need fuel. Okay, so this is the air intake, this device right here. The air comes in through there, filter sits in here, it goes in there, goes down there, through here. There's your throttle body is in there. That's where the fuel, the air flow comes in, and there's a choke plate on there, but I'm not gonna get in there. So what I'm gonna do is once I get this drained, I'm gonna fill the tank with fresh gas. Then I'm gonna spray my starter fluid in here. I'm gonna try to get the engine running, you know, before it starts trying to feed the fresh fuel in. And then once the fuel starts coming in on its own, it should, if the engine's working, it should work. But okay, well, things didn't go as I hoped. So drained the tank. I put 5 gallons of fresh gas in. I had him crank the key, made sure that the gas was coming out. I sprayed starter fluid in here. It started up and then it died, and it won't start unless I spray starter fluid in. It starts up and it dies. So I'm not sure at this point. My next step is I got to find the fuel line. Okay, so I'm back inside. I had put all this back together. I thought I was done. Okay, this is called a Schrader valve. This is on the fuel line coming from the tank going into the engine, and this is a fuel pressure gauge, so you can check fuel pressure at this point. I have none. I'll show you. Something is keeping us from getting fuel to the engine. This thing should pressurize when I turn the key. See that? I got nothing. So that's why the engine won't run. So now we just work back from here back and find out, you know, why I got no fuel pressure. Okay, I have determined that the fuel pump is bad on this truck. And the way I determined that, well, I'll show you a couple of things. When you turn the key on this truck, when you just turn it to the on position, it energizes your fuel pump. Your fuel pump pushes, I don't know exactly how much pressure in this car. It's got to be, I'm assuming at least 30. To fill the lines with fuel. It's not pushing anything. Okay, and when you crank it, it should be showing fuel pressure. There is none. So if you go under the truck where the fuel filter is, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to tell you what I did. Okay, if you go under the truck, I pulled the fuel filter. I pulled the there's the fuel filter. I took the line off going into the engine. I had somebody first turn the key and watched it come out, then had them crank it and watched it spurt out. And it's not enough pressure. You know, I like I said, I don't know. I gotta believe you gotta have 40 PSI to run these fuel injectors. I'm guessing, and I can look it up. I'm gonna look it up when I'm done here. But what I know is what's coming out of here is not enough pressure. So this is a job, because the fuel pump, I believe, is either in the fuel tank or attached to the side of the tank, and the only way you can get to it is you got to drop the tank. So this is going to turn out to be a pretty big job. I don't even know if I'm capable of dropping this tank, but I'm going to try. But that's the latest. That's where I am with this project. We're dealing with the fuel tank, so I'll keep you posted. Okay, here's the update. So I was going to drop this tank. It's not super hard to drop it. It's two straps. Then there's a bunch of stuff I got to take off. And I have jack stands and jacks, you know, to help me lower it down to the ground. My problem is I don't know that I can get it back up there. You know, bringing down is a lot easier than putting it up. I'd have it drained so it wouldn't be too heavy. It's a two-man job going up. It's got to be, and I don't have anybody to help me. We're at the point where I'm going to find him a storage yard and probably get this towed to a storage yard until that gets him off this property, because they want him to leave, and that gives him, you know, if I can do a 30-day storage rental, then what I'll do is I'll try to find a mechanic who's reasonable and maybe get it towed to a mechanic who can do all this work here. Okay, well, that's the end of this one. It didn't end the way I hoped. So I put his truck all back together. I talked to a mechanic. I got a price to drop the tank, put in a new pump, and then I got a price to have it towed to his shop. Had it all set up, and then the old guy said he'd been talking to the I kept getting confused. It was Goodwill or the Veterans. It might have been both. And they're telling him, or at least he believes they told him, they will come to his house, get all of his stuff, load it in a truck, put it in storage for him. Then they'll pay to have the truck towed to the mechanic, and they will pay to have the truck fixed. I don't believe it, but that's what he told me. And so I left him the name and number of the tow company and the mechanic shop that I dealt with, because that guy was he was ready to take that truck today, and the tow company was ready to tow it today, which these days is unusual. Everybody's so busy. But he said no, hold off. And that's it. I left. So at least he's in a place where I'm hoping he gets it all taken care of. I left him a card and I said, if they don't come through and you get in a bind, you know, I'll be your lifeline. Call me and I'll bail you out. Because I can, you know, I can have that truck at that mechanic shop in a day. Okay, well, this one didn't end the way I hoped, but oh well. Can't win them all. I'll see you on the next one.